Of the Oxford Planning Commission. Commissioners, you have the agenda in front of you. Note that the two consent agenda items have been postponed. Are there any other changes or additions to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any changes or additions to the minutes of the May 13th meeting? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Ben, do you have a staff report for us?
Just a real quick mention of a couple weeks ago, planning staff actually went to Northwest Arkansas, so went to Bentonville, Fayetteville, Rogers, and Springdale to we went up there and we had a lot of meetings with our counterparts at the planning departments, people that are working on kind of planning related elements in the area. It was a great trip. We learned a lot. And we walked a lot and we talked a lot, and I think we saw an awful lot of ideas and programs that we think we're going to potentially have more conversations and have deeper dives into what that could look like for Oxford. I think that's great. I think it's definitely a lot of differences between that region and Oxford. But it's good to learn, and it's good to build the capacity. In fact, we've had I think several phone calls from we made and that they've made back to us based on some of those conversations with our counterparts up there about, hey, you mentioned this in that meeting, how did you do that? Or saw an awful lot of artwork, and so we've had some follow-ups related to some of the programs that they have in place there to help administer and deploy art. So anyway, it was a really good trip. I welcome any of you to come in and sit down and visit. And we recently put together a presentation that we gave to the mayor and several other folks here at the city, and would love to walk you through some of those findings. So anyway, just wanted to mention that because I thought it was pretty neat.
Thanks, Ben. And
Yep.
You got the Walden Foundation to move to Oxford, is that right?
We're still working on that. We're still negotiating. But.
Thank you, sir. All right, commissioners, please note the administrative approval case that was handled by staff, and that brings us to the first of the public hearings. Our first case will be case number 3091. V2 Incorporated has filed a request for site plan approval for lot 1 and 2 commercial MSL Oxford subdivision for property located at 108 Bolt Boulevard. Robert?
All right, subject property is a little over 2 acres located in the MSL subdivision just south of the intersection of Bolt Boulevard and Clubhouse Drive. The applicant is proposing to construct a phased office development consisting of 2 buildings that are 6,375 square feet and 10,500 square feet. And this request is for site plan approval for the first phase. For the use and parking, the use of offices is permitted by special use in TNB districts, and special use application has been received by staff. Parking is calculated for office uses at 1 space for every 300 square feet of gross floor area. This phase will require 21 spaces and up to 27. The applicant received a special exception in April for a phase parking plan to build 57 spaces to accommodate this and the second phase. For building heights, buildings in TNB are required to have a second story of at least 51% functional floor area of the first floor, and the applicant received a special exception in April, so the second floor could be a little bit less than 51%. As to other elements, you have access and sidewalks. Property will take primary access from Bolt Boulevard, and cross access has been provided to the north. Sidewalks are provided along the right-of-way that will eventually connect into the rest of the sidewalk network. Landscape package has been provided that indicates street trees, foundation plantings, parking lot trees, and screening plantings that all comply with the requirements of the LDC. Per a additional submission, we do have the needed buffer screening that will shield the blue line stream at the rear of the property. For building materials, the materials are primarily a brick veneer with split face block and cast stone accents. And as always, signage is a separate approval and will be required to ensure compliance with the signage requirements of the LDC. Engineering provided comments related to water and sewer, traffic access, sidewalks, stormwater management. and staff recommends approval of the requested site plan with the 4 conditions, though you can strike 2 if you want to. Actually, you can strike 3 as well. So really just 1 and 4 are necessary. The other 2 have been resolved at this point.
Thank you, Robert.
And Jeff is here if y'all have any questions.
So the sidewalk's been addressed, but that's not reflected in the drawings?
Not reflected in these plans, but
Okay, gotcha.
yeah, they're presented.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission? No? All right, anyone from the audience that would like to speak on this case? If not, is there a motion on case number 3091?
I make a motion to approve, subject to the 2 staff conditions, which were 1 and 4.
All right, there's a motion to approve with conditions 1 and 4. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, site plan's approved. That takes us to case number 3092. The Grove on North Lamar LLC has filed a request for site plan amendment for Savannah Square for property located at 1000 North Lamar. And please let the record show that Commissioner Alexander is recusing himself.
Okay, so this is a site plan amendment for the Savannah Square development, which is a property that's around 2.51 acres located at the intersection of North Lamar Boulevard and Pleasant Drive. The applicant received a special exception at the February 2024 meeting of the commission to locate residential units on the ground floor of Building A. So the site plan amendment reflects the changes associated with the use of that space for residential units. The previous site plan amendment for Savannah Square was approved in March of 2023 with the original in May of 2018. The property is zoned traditional neighborhood business. The applicant proposes a 3-story building with 3,821 square feet of retail office space and 51 residential units, comprised of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. The amended site plan will modify the floor plans and the parking areas due to the new use. More parking was added at the rear of Building A to accommodate the change. 89 spaces will park buildings A and B, which contains the retail space, and 36 residential units. The engineering department provided comment on water and sewer, traffic and access, sidewalks, and stormwater management. And staff is recommending approval of this amendment with 6 listed conditions.
Thank you, Kate. Any questions from the commission? All right, anyone wish to speak on this from the audience? If not, is there a motion on the site plan for case number 3092?
And a motion to approve with the 6 staff recommendations.
All right, there's a motion to approve, subject to staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. That takes us to, can we get Commissioner Alexander? Thank you. Our next case will be case number 3093. Church Hill, Mississippi Division has filed for a variance from section 3.2.18.2 retaining wall height for property located at 3688 South Lamar.
Okay, this property measures around 5.49 acres and is located at the intersection of South Lamar Boulevard and Pea Ridge Road with the Shackelford Road intersection. It's on the east side of the property. And the site plan for this property is our next case, case number 3094. The applicant is seeking a 5-foot variance for retaining wall height. As stated in the application, which was included with your report, due to the topography in the southeastern corner of the property and the location of utilities and easements, the applicant believes that a strict application of the portion of the code would restrict the property owner from developing a large portion of the property. They also noted that the retaining wall portion visible from South Lamar will be 4 feet in height, which is in line with the requirements of the code, and the taller portion, which will not front South Lamar, will be concealed by vegetation. Staff finds that due to the topography of the site, literal interpretation of this provision of the ordinance would limit the owner's right to develop the property as enjoyed by other properties, which is not the fault of the applicant. So staff is recommending approval of the variance with the condition that approval as for the plan is submitted.
All right, any questions on this one from the commission?
And Jeff's here, if you guys have questions for him.
I guess just this is a technical question, I guess. The maximum height of the wall, Jeff, it's probably for you. It's partly a planning question, but the maximum height of the wall is 11 feet. Is it 9 feet, the portion that falls in the front yard?
Yeah, it's 9 feet in the front, but when you look at it from South Lamar, you'll only see 4 feet.
Yeah.
Then you'll see a stair step down, and behind that wall, back into the site is where the extra height will be.
Gotcha. Any other questions?
And I was trying to review like the actual ordinance to see, but I'm not really clear on what we're varying from. So I mean, there's a 9-foot retaining wall that you're trying to build, trying to avoid building.
Yes,
The max height in the front yard is
the max height is 4 feet in the front and 6 feet on the sides. Right.
And so we have a 9-foot height that we need.
It's 9 feet, and then it goes back down to less than 4 as it goes back to the west.
And so
So it's right at the corner. There's a huge ravine right there. I had several retaining walls in different spots, and that was the best way to have the appearance of the 4-foot wall when you view it from South Lamar. So I've got that kind of a wing wall coming off of it to protect that 9-foot height from being visible from South Lamar.
And my question is centered around just the idea of making sure, I guess, that if there's different requirements, like I know that if we go, I think 5 feet, it changes the calculations for what we need. I'm just making sure we're not circumventing that, right? I mean, we're going by the engineering principles for the height of what you're building.
I'm not sure what the question is, but based on the elevations, and there's a lot of utilities already in place, some city utilities, some northeast utilities. So I'm kind of hamstrung by those as well, so.
But you're also going to provide an engineering.
Oh, absolutely.
drawing
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Construction of the wall.
Absolutely. There'll be a
I think that's what you're getting.
fully engineered, absolutely.
Perfect. That's it.
Good deal. Other questions? Anyone from the audience? If not, is there a motion on case number 3093 for the variance for the retaining wall height?
I move that we approve the variance.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor? Aye. All right. The variance is approved. That takes us to case number 3094. Churchill, Mississippi's MS Division has filed a request for site plan approval for the Southern for property located at 3688 South Lamar.
Okay, so this is the site plan approval request for that same property located at South Lamar Boulevard and Pea Ridge Road. So regarding use and parking requirements, quadplexes are approved as a special use in this zoning district. We have received that application, which will be approved once or if the site plan is approved by the Planning Commission. For the detached dwellings, parking is calculated at 2 spaces per unit for dwellings of up to 3 bedrooms and 1 space for dwellings up to 4 bedrooms with 1 guest parking space for every 3 dwelling units. The site plan shows 80 spaces, which complies with the requirements of the code. The coverage, which is 40.8%, is well below the 60% maximum in this district. I will note that the structure height is limited to 3 feet and no more than 2 stories. We have received revised floor plans for one of the floor plans showed a 3rd story, and we received revised floor plans for that, so that'll take care of one of the conditions of approval, one of the staff conditions. The project meets the requirements of the code for architecture and building materials, landscaping and tree mitigation, including the landscaping on the retaining wall that the variance was just approved for in the previous case. And 5-foot sidewalks are provided on both the Pea Ridge and South Lamar portions of the site, as well as throughout the development. The engineering department provided comment on water and sewer, traffic and access, sidewalks, and stormwater management, and staff is recommending approval of the site plan with 6 conditions.
All right, thank you, Kate.
Yep.
Any questions from the commission? I have a question for engineering. just because the drainage for this site is all straight back into that subdivision behind it, can you say, how will the drainage be done with the initial grading? Because with a previous case, you know, there's that development right next to it, and there was a lot of issues with,
I've recommended that they go ahead and install basically a silt basin where the detention pond will be. So we'll catch all that, and obviously we'll have a lot of erosion control measures. And after it's built, Steve and I worked through some energy dissipators, so when it comes out of the pond, it'll be slowed down as much as possible.
okay, sounds good. Yeah, the silt retention, that's great, appreciate it. Any other questions? Anyone from the audience that would like to speak? All right, if not, is there a motion on the site plan for case number 3094?
I move that we approve the site plan review as presented with the 6 conditions.
Okay, there's a motion to approve with the staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. That brings us to case number 3095. Let the record show that Commissioner Alexander is recusing himself for cases 3095 and 3096. DevCore LLC has requested a special exception as provided in section 3.5.1.2.c, dwellings detached, districts permitted, in our 4-bedroom for property located at 1219 Ivy Road.
All right, subject property is a little over 3 acres located at the end of Ivy Road, just north of Savannah Square development. The applicant proposes to construct 18 4-bedroom detached dwellings in an RCID, and this request is to facilitate that proposal. The property is located in NR, and in NR, detached units of more than 4 bedrooms are special exceptions. Applicant is proposing that all 18 will be 4 bedrooms. Applicant contends that there's major growth pressure with the enrollment increases and that additional bedrooms would be beneficial to the city. In the direct vicinity, there are not any 4-bedroom units. Savannah Square is a combination of 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units. Ivy Place is 3-bedroom townhomes, and Ivy Hill is also 3-bedroom units. The proposal could provide a product that is not currently available in the direct vicinity. There is some standalone guest parking provided, as well as garages for most of the units, so excess parking should not be a problem. There are also 2 points of egress, one along Ivy and the other through Savannah Square on a private drive that connects to Pleasant Drive. So access to the bar should also not be a problem. For these reasons, staff believes the addition of 18 4-bedroom units will not be detrimental to the surrounding neighborhood and recommends approval of the requested special exception with the condition that approval is for the plan as submitted. Joe's here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Robert. Are there questions from the commission? All right. Is there anyone from the audience that'd like to speak? All right. If there's no discussion, is there a motion on the special exception for case number 3095?
I'll make a motion that we approve it with the one, or with the special exception and the one staff condition.
All right, there's a motion to approve, subject to the staff condition. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, it's approved. And that takes us to case number 3096, which is the site plan for the same property.
Same great property, still on Ivy Road. So for use in parking, TNR districts allow up to 5.8 units an acre, so 1 unit per 7,500 square foot. 18 units could be constructed, 18 units proposed. And you'll just do the special exception. Parking for 4-bedroom detached units is calculated at 1 space per bedroom plus 1 space for every 3 units. 72 spaces for the units and 6 guest spaces are required, and 82 spaces are provided. Coverage is allowed up to 60%, 55.8 is proposed. Landscaping package has been provided that indicates street trees, parking lot trees, foundation, plantings, and screening that all be at LDC standards. Mitigation is required for 4 significant trees that are being removed, and 12 2-inch caliber willow oaks will be planted on site, which will fully mitigate what is being removed. For building materials, applicant has provided 2 alternate elevations for the same floor plan. Both feature cementitious siding with some painted brick veneer elements and architectural shingles. Engineering provided comments related to water and sewer, traffic access, sidewalks, and stormwater management. And staff recommends approval of the requested site plan for what is now called Foxwood, with the 5 conditions that are in. No.
Thank you, Robert. Questions from the commission regarding the site plan? Anyone from the audience that would like to speak? You have a question?
After the water leaves this site, which way does it go? North or does it go south? Anybody know?
Goes southeast.
Southeast.
Where's it going?
I just think because I noticed like a couple of times where the Varner Loop behind the beacon was completely flooded, you know, that you couldn't get by there. So I don't know what the city's ever done to rectify that. Okay.
Other questions? All right, is there a motion on case number 3096 for the site plan?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to the 5 staff conditions.
There's a motion to approve, subject to staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, site plan is approved. Could we collect Commissioner Alexander, please? Our next case will be case number 3097, BCS Development LLC has requested a site plan approval for the Meadows at South Lamar for property located at 4853 South Lamar Boulevard.
Yeah, the property is about 4.5 acres. It's located on the east side of South Lamar. And the property, or the proposal, is to construct 16 3- and 4-bedroom detached dwellings in a RCID. The applicant's proposing 12 3-bedrooms and 4 4-bedroom homes on the site, which is below the maximum density for this site. RCID is allowed by special use, something that we have received. However, we're still waiting on the covenants, and we will need a copy of those before we're able to approve the RCID, and that's a condition of this staff report. Units 1 through 12 propose 2-car garages with the ability to park 2 cars in the driveway in front of the garage. And units 13 through 16, they do have 3-car garages with also the ability to park 2 cars in the driveway in front of that. The proposal sufficiently meets the parking requirements. The proposal also complies with the lot coverage requirement, the landscaping provisions, and the tree mitigation. The site does not require any tree mitigation on it. From a fencing standpoint, there is a proposal for a 6-foot fence around the stormwater detention facility, and a portion of that fence is actually located in the front yard, which is regulated to a 4-foot tall fence. So a condition of approval related to that is in this report. The applicant provided 3 elevations and floor plans for the development. All 3 propose materials that are consistent with the requirements of our land development code. Engineering provided comments related to water, sewer, traffic access, sidewalks, stormwater management, and staff recommends approval of the site plan for the Meadows at South Lamar with the following 7 conditions in your staff report.
Thank you, Ben.
You bet.
Questions from the commission? Comments, thoughts? No. Anyone from the audience who would like to speak on this case? All right. If not, is there a motion on case number 3097 for the site plan?
Make a motion to approve the site plan with the 7 staff conditions.
Motion to approve with the 7 conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor? Aye. All right. Site plan is approved. That takes us to case number 3098. The City of Oxford has filed a request for modifications to the Land Development Code. Ben?
Yeah, as you see in the staff report, I pulled some statistics related to the growth and development related to Oxford. Obviously, we have seen this as the Planning Commission. We see this on a regular basis, the amount of development and growth pressure that we are facing. Enrollment continues to steadily increase. I don't know that we don't know what's going to happen. We anticipate that that's going to continue to grow, but we don't necessarily know. We saw that in 15, 16, 17, where we did have a dip in enrollment, but nonetheless, we anticipate that it's going to continue to grow. According to the census, the estimates for Oxford's current population is about 27,000 people. That's a 42%, nearly 42% increase since 2010. That's nearly 7% since 2020. These totals don't really, I mean, we all know this, right? I mean, we have an awful lot of students, we have a lot of second homeowners, in addition to the people that come here during the daytime. So at any given moment, Oxford's population swells to 60 to 7,000 population. And depending on who we're playing on a football weekend, an SEC football weekend, we're probably 100 to 150,000 people, if not more. What's really interesting is if you look at the population as it stands right now, according to the estimates, we're actually ahead of the population projections from the Vision 2037. So in 2025, we were anticipated to be about I think it was just about 25,000 people. So we're already exceeding the population projections. And I was around when we did those population projections and people were like, I mean, really? You think that we're going to be that big in 2025? And, nonetheless, we continue to see growth. It presents challenges with the infrastructure that's needed, the roads that we need, the roundabouts that are required, the challenges with off-ramps and increased traffic associated with them, utility capacity, parks, schools. We've seen all of our schools, nearly all of our schools come in with additions, new construction, I think we're going to continue to see that grow. These needs also include housing. That's all types of housing. Attached units, detached units, multifamily, rentals for sale, but especially single-family homes that are in more affordable price ranges. City of Oxford's Affordable Housing Commission, they continue to be committed to addressing affordable housing challenges in the community. During the last fiscal year, they have continued to advance goals related to establishing a housing trust fund, propose ordinance revisions related to the Affordable Housing Incentive Program, and also to provide community outreach and engagement. I also provided in the staff report a link to their annual report that was presented at the last Mayor and Board of Aldermen meeting. And while this policy that is being proposed today is not a part of that effort, I do believe that, and staff believes that this complements and enhances the work of the commission and is another effort to provide more housing supply in Oxford. And so the intent of this proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance is to add a new zoning overlay district. It's the Housing Accelerator Overlay District. The proposal will facilitate a dense single-family residential neighborhood with lots that range in size from 2,000 square feet to approximately 5,000 square feet. It's our desire that the small nature of these lots and the increased density with the housing overlay, that these neighborhoods will potentially offer a more affordable price point. A variety of standards are included that help facilitate the design of the neighborhoods, and the review standards for the housing affordable overlay include a range of limits that are crafted to provide the structure and flexibility for this densely constructed neighborhood. These elements do include a minimum and maximum lot area, a minimum and maximum dwelling unit density, maximum impervious coverage standards, minimum lot width standards, minimum and maximum frontages and setbacks, and then minimum and maximum height limitations, standards for review of the unit type and mix, standard for review of the architecture of the proposed homes, standards for review of the parking, road, and pedestrian infrastructure, and standards for review related to landscaping and common amenity areas. So you also notice that there's a very consistent document here. It's consistent with the standards in Section 2 of the Land Development Code, so it's laid out very, very similarly. I do think that it's important to note that according to this overlay, if there is a property that's inside of this district, that they still have the option to design to the underlying zoning. So it's not, it's not that you have to do this. I think it gives more options and the opportunity. But if a developer or property owner desires to propose a development within this housing overlay district, that it would need to be consistent with these standards. So it's not like we're going to cherry pick some elements. So if you decide to opt out of the overlay requirements, then you have to develop fully to the underlying zoning requirements. It's pretty straightforward. And there are a variety of standards, design standards in here with the unit mix, architecture, parking, road and pedestrian infrastructure, landscaping, common amenity areas. I think one important element to consider is, given that these are, have the potential to be very small lots, that you're sacrificing some lot area, front yard or backyard. And so it's important to have those common areas to be able to, for families to take advantage of, or for residents to be able to take advantage of in the absence of not having these yards. The homes that are proposed inside of this range are similar to what you would see at the Lamar development. They're very consistent with some of those size. So I think that that's something that has been recently constructed that you can relate to this. I'm happy to answer any questions related to this. We do believe that this is, it's a first of its kind aimed at creating housing supply in Oxford, and it does provide, the framework for small lot, single family neighborhoods that incorporate these amenities. The overlay will allow some forward-thinking developers to begin working on this single family neighborhood that doesn't exist anywhere else in Oxford. Staff recommends approval of this overlay district. And this is the ordinance, just the ordinance to create the overlay district.
Yeah, so would you go ahead to case number 3099 and just talk about the placement since they're tied together?
Yeah, just one other element, since this is a zoning ordinance and then a rezoning. Y'all are a recommending body to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen. So ultimately the Mayor and Board of Aldermen will make the decision, the determination there that will there will be there will be a public hearing and 3 readings and a potential vote. So, yeah, so as it pertains to case 3099 and the proposal for the overlay, which would establish the creation of this overlay over along Pat Patterson Parkway, the majority of the property included is located on the west side of the parkway, but a small portion of the property is located on the east side of the road. The zoning of all the property that's included inside of this overlay district is currently zoned suburban residential. The request is to establish this district for the properties included within the boundary of the proposed overlay as indicated in the exhibit that's included in the staff report. It's important to note, again, that the property owner, if they wish to develop their property to the underlying zoning requirements of suburban residential, that certainly is allowed. As stated in case 3098, the intent is to the proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance is to add this new overlay district, the Housing Accelerator Overlay District. The proposal will facilitate dense single-family residential neighborhood with lots ranging in size from 2,000 to slightly under 5,000 square feet. It's our desire, with the small nature of these lots and the increased density, that these neighborhoods will offer a more affordable price point, and a variety of standards are included to help facilitate the design of the overlay. I've included a copy of the standards for rezoning, and they ultimately comes down to whether or not something was a mistake. But if it's not a mistake, you also have to prove change in need. And so, as stated in 3098, we continue to grow. I established the the quantity of residents that we currently have as part of the latest estimates. These totals, again, don't include all the people that are unaccounted for, second homeowners, and all the other people that are here on a regular basis, people that own, people that are working here, that are coming to Oxford. I do believe that the growth pressures present the need for additional infrastructure, The growth pressures present the need for additional infrastructure, in particular housing, as we already established. As of the writing of the report, according to the MLS, only 52 single-family homes were listed within the city limits for sale. That was at any price range. That's on the MLS. That doesn't include homes that were listed for sale by owner, but on the MLS, 52. Of those, only one was listed below $300,000. I took it a step further and I looked at the county, Lafayette County, to see exactly how many homes would be listed $300,000 or less. 5 countywide, including the one that's inside the city limits. The character of the area along Pat Patterson Parkway is also beginning to change. In 2022, some of you may recall the approximately 22 acres adjacent to the proposed overlay that was rezoned for a planned unit development, which provided for more commercial and residential development along Pat Patterson Parkway. In May of 2024, Lafayette County accepted a bid for the final phase of the extension of the parkway from College Hill Road to the industrial park, which connects College Hill Road to which connects to College Hill Road. Staff believes that the creation of this overlay district is important in providing more single-family housing supply. We believe that there is sufficient change in need to justify the creation of this overlay. The overlay is only applicable to the properties inside of this boundary, and staff recommends approval of this requested rezoning.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, you bet.
Just a technical question on the standards. The common amenity areas, is there a particular requirement for how much or what character, or just that those have to be incorporated into any proposed development?
Yeah, I think when you look at the standards, it's subject to some discretion at the planning director because of, you know, if you have a 100-acre development and you propose one grilling station on there, I don't necessarily know that that's you know, meeting the spirit and the intent of the ordinance. And so I think it needs to be appropriate for the size and the scale of the development. I also think that it could be and should be a variety of elements associated with it depending on the size. So it could be a park with some playground equipment, but you might also have a walking trail that connects to the park, and then maybe in other areas of the development. You could potentially have, you know, grilling areas has been a common amenity that we've seen in recent years, so you could potentially incorporate something like that. So there's not a standard specific, because I certainly think it depends on the development that's being proposed.
Thanks. And on the landscaping, it says at least 15% has to be green space. Is there a way that we could add some verbiage just to say that it's desirable that that green space be a functional part of the common amenities?
Sure. So if I'm hearing you correctly, I think what you're saying is the 15%.
Just to maximize the amount of functional common space. So if they have to have 15% green space anyway, just not to lock that up in like areas that are not going to be functional, but to try to incorporate it into those other elements.
So functional common amenity areas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there other comments or questions from the commission?
So, what's to stop a developer from coming in and utilizing this to do a condo that's just small and, you know, just increase the price? How is this gonna allow us to build single-family houses that provide the affordability that we don't seem to be able to create this time?
So it wouldn't be possible for them to come in with a condominium because a requirement of this is that they have to be on fee simple individual lots.
Okay, that's
So there's that.
okay. That's
The price point, you know, we don't control the price point. And I think what it does provide is the opportunity for a developer to fray the costs associated with the development of a property on across more units, right? And so I think it gets you the ability or the potential of, you know, the potential opportunity to have the point of entry be lower, just because of the density. Again, that's not to say that developer could,
No, I don't, we can't control that, but we can limit, like exactly what you said, it's gotta be fee simple.
yeah, and that's not to say, well, I mean, it's fee simple,
Yeah.
right? But that's not to say that, you know, they're not used for rental.
Sure.
You know, my hopes is that they would be single-family homes that are sold to families.
Can
We
we
have,
limit under zoning? Can you limit?
I think if a developer wanted to propose that, I think that that's certainly something that they could, you know, have
Under
a,
covenants?
that's right.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Has the landowner been apprised of the situation of possibly changing the zoning, and what have they had to say about it?
So we haven't had any direct conversations with the property owners associated with this, and partly because I think it provides some flexibility, but if they wanted to continue to develop their property as it's currently zoned, then that's certainly possible. So sure, it changes, it just gives, I think, a little bit more development flexibility. We've had, I think, some indirect conversations with representatives of property, but we haven't spoken directly to the property owners.
Yeah, so that was actually kind of my question. What was the thought process, or how was this property chosen?
Yeah,
Well, can we just clarify, it's not one property, right? It's a contiguous area with multiple
yeah,
property
about,
owners?
I think six.
Yeah.
I think about 6 parcels. Well, how was this area selected? Well, I think when you know, we were discussing an area that would be denser, you know, we were looking at areas that maybe didn't have existing residential neighborhoods around it. Also looked at tracts of land that were larger and had the potential. You know, and I think that the size of the area that we evaluated as part of this was, you know, it's about 300 acres in total. So, you know, it's not very large, and so I think it enables us an opportunity to try it, see how it works, make course corrections if necessary. It may be great. You know, it may work exactly as we intended. I don't know that that's ever the case with some of these things, but it certainly had the potential to be, I think, less challenging in this area, just because it's, you know, recently annexed. You know, you have Pat Patterson Parkway, which has the potential to be expanded down the road. There's a wide of way if that's necessary. There's multiple ways in and out, and I think that there's plans for continuing connectivity associated with it. Utility capacity, I think, is fine in this area. So, you know, it seemed like this was a really good litmus test for creating supply on property that has, you know, it's, I think has real good potential.
I have a question. You said this was up to 300 acres. How much of this acreage would be for housing? Is this also open for commercial, or this is
just strictly single-family homes? And does not actually, you know, that we do have a considerable amount of property that's zoned neighborhood residential, which does allow for, we call it missing middle style housing. So, you know, moderate single family density like duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes, some of which we've seen tonight. This proposal would only allow for single family homes. Doesn't allow for townhomes. Duplexes, triplexes, quadplex. It's just a smaller scale potential. And so if somebody wanted to develop, you know, acre lots on their property, they still have the ability to do that.
Mm-hmm. But to that question about commercial, there is T&B on the other side of the road at both ends and at a couple spots along the way, right?
But not associated with this
But not incorporated into it.
That's right.
So Are you opening a door with the basis of, I guess under the state law, the rezoning, that our population is growing? Are you opening the door to allow anybody else to come in and say, "Yep, you know, we gotta, you know, our population's growing, you know, I wanna convert, you know, I wanna rezone my land," you know?
I think at any given point, people have the opportunity to come in and seek a rezoning. And I think that those are always discretionary to the Board of Aldermen, whether or not they believe it's in the city's best interest to rezone a piece of property, including overlay districts here. So I think, I don't necessarily.
You're not concerned about that, or the bigger issue is our lack of affordable housing.
I think that we have a need for housing. I think we have a real need for housing.
Other questions from the commission?
Why did y'all go so far over on the depth on the, I mean, it's just an odd shape. I'm trying to figure out, there's gotta be a rhyme or reason as to why it's shaped the way it is and the property lines that it follows. It follows property lines on one side.
It's the city limit line.
Yeah, it's buttoned up, it's everything west of city.
City limit line, and it just follows those parcels.
Okay,
The west line is the city limit line.
That's right.
okay.
Other questions? Anyone from the audience that would like to speak? Or online? I mean, I'll say, you know, there's a lot that we don't have control over. I don't think we can control whether people want to move to our community as much as we try to make it a desirable place to live. Those forces are outside our control, and we don't get to choose what the prices are either. So we don't get to choose whether we grow, but I think we have some control over how we grow. And I think we're going to need a whole variety of different options. So I appreciate the creativity and the willingness to try to experiment with options. You know, probably won't have a huge effect on prices, but diversity is part of the puzzle. So appreciate it.
Let me ask you this, Ben. So, I mean, in general, we're just making it, we're lowering the standards that we currently have to allow for cheaper, they can build the neighborhoods cheaper in general. Does that kind of sum it up?
I don't
Let's
know.
just say it allows for more development potential. And I think development potential can have, you know, I mean, we don't know what's going to be priced, but when you have the potential to, again, spread the cost among, you know, amongst 12 homes versus 6, I think that could have a potential on pricing.
But I would say, just nitpicking words, I don't think we're lowering standards. The building standards are the same. I think we're changing the form-based standards, right? There are different standards for the size of the lots and the setbacks on the lots, but there's nothing associated with the construction that we're changing, right?
I think so. I agree with that.
Okay. Lot sizes, anyway, thank you.
You know, and, hesitate to even mention this, but, you know, at one point we looked at lot sizes and just having a minimum lot size. But then we felt it important to try to at least put in that range, you know, so that's why you saw the 2,000 square feet. For a long time, we talked about just 2,000 square feet, but then that could give somebody the ability to build, you know, 9,000 square feet. And so I don't know that that's really doing justice to what we were trying to facilitate. So we went in, and that's where we created the 2,000 to 4,800, you know, square feet. So it's, you know, just gives you a range of size.
Well, if I was to buy some land and I want it to be like this, I mean, what's the, I guess what I'm getting at is like the developers now that are halfway through a project or whatever, and they had to do these standards, and then they see this, they're like, man, how do I get those standards? I would love to have that instead of all these other hoops that I jump through. I know we got to start somewhere, but on their behalf, I guess I would ask. I mean,
Well, that being said, we've not received any development proposals for projects in this area.
okay,
I'll stop you right there.
That's probably it right there. It's fair enough. Okay, that's all I got.
Would you picture this as kind of an Old Oaks? Maybe smaller?
I think it has the potential to be that. I think the difference between Old Oaks and what's proposed here is Old Oaks is on a condominium style of ownership. These would be on fee simple lots. But
similar
still,
kind of feel.
Any other discussion? Anyone from the audience or online? If not, is there a motion on case number 3098 for the modifications to the Land Development Code?
Make a motion to recommend the proposed changes.
There's a motion to approve the modifications. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, modifications are recommended for approval. And is there a motion on case number 3099 for the zoning map amendment?
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. That brings us to the end of the cases. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?